Good morning, everybody. Happy day before Thanksgiving, and this is the Rivalry Week Takeover, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Texas Homer. I'm joined by Ian Boyd. We are going to talk, surprisingly, about Texas versus Texas A&M, what Texas has done to substitute the run game, why it works, and what can be built off of that. Why is A&M having success? What hires did they make? How did this happen right under our nose? And then some keys to beat A&M going forward. We want to see you on Inside Texas, though. $1 for your first week. New members, come hang out. If you're shy, don't worry. You'll enjoy it over there. Team news, analysis, recruiting, all of that. Please come hang out. Ian, my brother, we got to get the energy up. Last week, they said we were boring, dude, that we had too much pauses in our conversation. And I said, what are you talking about? These are two of the most lively guys on the internet, but I guess they thought differently. So we really got to perk up this good morning.
That didn't happen.
It did. We had some comments. I didn't even realize it, but I listened back to it. I guess I was just tired, and I was like, yeah, they actually have a point. Good morning, Roaster. First things first, let's talk Ryan Wingo and the screen game and what we've been able to do with that. But more importantly, how it can benefit theoretically the run game and then building cool stuff off of it. All righty. Here we go.
Sadly, of questionable relevance this week.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
So your opening statement, one of the biggest adjustments Steve Sarkisian has made in his offense this year has been changing the way he uses Ryan Wingo in order to set up the rest of the offense. What's the traditional thought process with that type of receiver? What kind of – are you trying to hit shots with him?
Yeah, 6'2", 215-pound guy that runs a 4.4. Usually you get him running down the field. Throw the ball deep. He catches it.
I've heard of it.
That's normal. They were tweaking it early on to try to throw him more deeper crossing patterns because those outside routes, you need a little bit of skill sometimes to get open on those. It's not just being big and fast, contrary to popular opinion. But they're like, well, somebody else can do that. He can run under deep and then hit him going across the middle. That didn't work either. So now we just use him as a glorified, massive, powerful slot receiver on the perimeter.
Yeah.
And Connor, that works. That actually works pretty good.
Yeah, well, we've opened the past 4 games, I believe, with this screen style. And you did a good point because really I haven't dove into it. To me, it was just screens. But you did a good job kind of pointing out the differences in the screens and all of that as well. So even though it looks kind of the same in presentation, they've tweaked little parts of it to open games. You're muted.
It's really, I've been sniffling. It's really been 4 completely different plays. Like it looks like, oh, they're just running the same play to start every game. But Sark has not been that obvious. There's a reason it's worked better than that would work.
Let's gaze upon such things. This is going to be Mississippi State.
The first one, the first time they did this.
Mississippi State. That was a fun opening to that game. But if you'll see, what's the design here? He's coming around in motion.
Unbalanced formation. That's why the slot receiver on top does not go downfield to block. If he gets downfield, he will be flagged as an ineligible receiver like he was an offensive lineman. Because you have to have 7 guys on the line of scrimmage, and the outermost guy to each side of the ball is eligible, and anyone inside of him who's also on the line of scrimmage is ineligible. It's very important in understanding how formations work. So they're unbalanced. They orbit motion him, throw him a swing screen. They have inside zone blocking up front, which they're actually mauling Mississippi State, amusingly enough, on the inside zone.
Yeah, here.
Look at that.
Yeah, they're like really getting to the second level.
Yeah, pretty borderline on the ineligible downfield down there.
So
I don't think it's a real RPO, though. I think they were going to throw it.
No of course, yeah. Especially once you know the context of the later games, right?
Yep.
All right. And then
so that worked really well. They ended up winning that game.
Then you have Vandy. Same motion, running behind the quarterback.
Not unbalanced this time.
And they just miss a bunch of tackles here, but we're looking at design.
And this time they have a power sweep run call on the bottom to try to. The nice thing about the sweep is that you pull linemen into the boundary, and that tells the linebackers, I got to get on my horse and get into the boundary.
Yeah.
While the screen is going to the other opposite extreme end of the field, and it creates mega run pass conflict. Now, as it happens, their linebacker completely
disregards it.
Down safety completely disregarded it. It just happened that he still couldn't hit. He still couldn't tackle Wingo.
Several people could not tackle Wingo.
Yeah, this one was a touchdown. The Mississippi State one was like a 50, 60-yard gain or something, and he trips up at the end. He got pushed out at the end.
Yeah, and then this is to open Georgia.
This has volume, so.
Well, I'm not going to play the volume because it'll.
Okay, I was going to say you might mute it.
Yeah, it'll. I just have to drag it slowly here.
So this time they motion the tight end Jack Injuries. And this is a great design because you get the tight end going to the perimeter late. And it gives you potential numbers advantage when they struggle to adjust to it. Georgia
get a lead block.
Georgia's in pretty good shape here. They have 3-on-3.
Yep.
But the corner is unblocked. And I'm like pausing and talking over it. It's actually a seam inside for.
Yeah, the opportunity actually ends up being there, right? We just
slip. He just slips. I don't have any idea what happened. He just slipped.
And then this is Arkansas. So we're seeing the little variations, even with me just watching it live and not studying it, it's just like, okay, they're just throwing swings to him, but they're doing different stuff with the run game. They're doing different stuff with who's lead blocking, who's motioning.
Or they did orbit motion and swing screens, and then they're cheat motioning the tight end and throwing now screens.
Yep. Same.
This one, the quirk was that the offensive line, instead of pretending to run block, instead of a fake RPO, the offensive line releases into the boundary, which should have been the tip off for Arkansas. It's like, wait, why are they throwing a Wingo in the boundary instead of the field?
Yep.
It's so that so the linemen are close enough to release. So they throw the what looks like they have a now screen, Texas does, where they motion the tight end out there and then they just throw it quick to the receiver. And he gets what he can behind the tight end's block. This is actually not that. This is looking like that, so that all their defenders race to the boundary, which is now shorter, get outside to try to stop that. And then the offensive line releases and pins them to the sideline while Wingo cuts up the field on a tunnel screen. But good gain, good play, but they only got 9 this time.
Yeah, relative to our other screen success, but in the world of screens, a very successful screen overall. But they're doing that to open every game, and they're putting little changes on it. Why? Why do you open with a screen? Why do you try to set the tone with that? And is it so you can build on it throughout?
It's so you can build on it throughout. This is now an enormous chunk of the Texas run game, because the run blocking is not very good, as we've seen. The running backs are not super good. I think we've all grown to appreciate Trey Wisner a little more, I'd say, all the time.
Yeah, he's our the only stable one.
He's the only stable one. There's a lot of things he does really well. We all appreciate Trey Wisner. But me, you, and Paul still also think that Trey Wisner is like an exceptional third down back and not the guy you want as your volume runner on a playoff team, right?
Yep.
Anyway, the run game, there's not much to say for the run game in general. And Wingo, on the other hand, extremely powerful and explosive, right? Texas's perimeter blocking actually pretty good this year. Injuries is really good at it. The receivers are all very willing and solid at it. Wingo himself will block. You can't throw him the ball if you do that, but they're all very good at this. And then Sark is great at drawing up a million different ways to get to it, to disguise it. It kind of works better here than in the run game too. Like if you have like 5 different ways to run a perimeter screen, they're generally that complicated. So teaching and installing them and executing them all really well is not that hard. Whereas 5 different run blocking concepts is a lot harder.
Yeah, because the fronts change, all that. Screens are generally like there's 2 or 3 guys out here.
If he's over here, you block him with this leverage. If he's over here, you block him with this. You learn like 2, 3 blocks. That's it. Yeah, the offensive line, you got to learn a million more things. It's a million times harder.
Yeah, there's different fronts, and then there's different techniques within. Is he a 2-eye? Is he a 3? Is he heads up? So yeah, no, I agree. So this is how Texas kind of decided to go, all right, we relent from our style versus Mississippi State, and we're going to try to get people out of the box. What does that do for the run game with such an emphasis on the screen game?
It helps a lot. You can get defenses to widen out because they start to realize like, okay, we need to like sit on the screens. There's two adjustments defenses can make, and you can punish both of them. They can start to drop safeties down and try to get after your perimeter screen game by putting defensive backs in tighter proximity. And then they become vulnerable to fake screens and throwing over the top or just running people by them. We have examples of that later in this article. Or they can widen their linebackers so that they have a chance to chase the ball outside, right? That's what A&M's going to do. And then when they do that, then they have their linebackers are not in the box. So maybe now you can finally run the ball.
Well, here we go. We got a good question here. Colin Davis, thank you for the super chat, my man. Is there a schematic reason our run game shows up randomly? OU and A&M last year, OU and hopefully A&M this year.
Well, last year the run game showed up against any team that wasn't – it showed up against all but the better run defenses. So like it was pretty consistent. They ran the ball at Vanderbilt. They ran the ball in Oklahoma and A&M. They were really good at outside zone last year. Or they were pretty good at outside zone last year. And outside zone is a great way to attack defenses of questionable discipline or different styles.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult scheme to defend when it's done right. And then they ripped Clemson with it. And then the good teams, the good defenses, they were much more sound, like Georgia, obviously, Arizona State. And I feel like there's another team, too, that like really shut it down.
Ohio State?
Well, they definitely did. Yeah. I thought there might have been another one where they had to like throw it around. Maybe not. This year, I don't think the run game shows up randomly. It doesn't show up.
It's only showed up for OU. So the random
It only showed up for OU. And OU is schematically vulnerable to outside zone, especially the way they wanted to play Texas. Because they wanted to play Texas with 3 safeties back and a light box. And then Texas was like, oh, we're going to put tight ends on the field. We're going to motion DeAndre Moore around. We're going to create extra gaps, and we're going to run outside zone with surprising competence. And Oklahoma's aggressiveness up front and their conservativeness on the back end paired very poorly. I guarantee if Texas played Oklahoma again, Oklahoma would probably do something a little different, and that could go very differently. Other than that, the run game hasn't shown up in a single game this year, right?
Technically 4.5 versus Ohio State.
That 4.5 is not that much.
Well, no. Well, listen to this stat. We've had one game over 4.
Yeah.
And it was Ohio State. So anything 4.1 and above was Ohio State. So relative, that was our best rushing performance. So I think the heart of the question is, can it show up versus A&M? How would it look if it showed up versus A&M? Will outside zone work like it worked last year? I know that you and Paul pointed out those linebackers are creeping out of the box more. But and this is, against Missouri, and they're a good rushing offense with good backs, but they're not they're still not super sound in the run game, right? Like they're giving up like an insane amount of yards after the carry. They're averaging like 4.4 yards after carry on defense, which is like Jeremiah Love level, Paul pointed out. So there's still issues there with their soundness, sometimes out of gaps, but also just getting guys down. Now, the flip side is Texas is one of the worst at getting yards after attempt and yak. So that's a trick. But is there possibility, do you think, schematically, or do you think that's been solved since last year?
A&M is not as vulnerable as last year. If they have vulnerabilities like you just mentioned to the run game. They are prone to giving up explosive gains in the run. It's not exactly that they're unsound. It's that the way that they defend spread running attacks will often involve just like crashing their safeties into the line of scrimmage to plug gaps. It's very aggressive, and when it misfires, we're going to cover this in the A&M preview
deep dive
later. But when they miss, you can really burn them theoretically. Problem for Texas is that Texas doesn't burn anybody with the run game. I think if they run a lot of zone read with Arch Manning involved, they might be able to run the ball on Texas A&M and make a difference in this game. And I think that's probably the best path to victory is you run loads and loads of zone read in a lot of different ways, and you manufacture some run game effectiveness that hasn't been there otherwise this year.
How does the screens marry, right? If you can get those linebackers out of the box, right, and you can have some success with Wingo, and maybe not even success, but you're just throwing it a lot, so they have to at least be aware to it. Can that open up opportunity?
I think it's already established. I don't think you need to throw it and do it well. When I watch A&M, they already travel their linebacker out of the box when teams show perimeter screens. Like A&M has the whole year's worth of film. I don't think they're going to be like,
they're not going to be caught off guard. Yeah, exactly.
Let's make Ryan Wingo prove he can go 75 in one play against us. They're like, we know he can go 75 in one play. We're not going to let him do it.
And we're bad tacklers too.
We're going to make you run the ball, Texas. We're going to make you run the ball between the tackles. The thing that we know that you are least capable of doing, we're going to make you do it from the start. Now, Texas will have some ways early to throw screens and try to get A&M out of leverage before the Aggies figure out how to stifle it. But if I'm A&M, I'm coming into this like I'm going to overplay the perimeter. Like, do your worst running the ball, Texas, right?
It's the right strategy.
It would be insane if they didn't do that.
Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, man. Sugarcane Daddy, you're back to TX Beats, huh?
It's funny he tells us that because we've already seen him comment like that on YouTube a million times.
Yeah. We've seen all your various phases you've gone through. Let's get this win versus A&M. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so that's the screen game. We're going to talk a little bit about how A&M got built up and why it happened, especially behind the scenes.
How did this happen? But first, guys, let's hear a word from Academy. The holiday season is here, and Academy Sports and Outdoors has the legendary gifts you need at undefeatable prices every day. Shop in store or online at academy.com to save on gifts on everybody's list. From football jerseys and basketball hoops to fire pits and deer stands. At least in North Texas, you're going to need those fire pits right now. The most wonderful time of the year happens here. This Christmas, give the gift of fun from Academy Sports and Outdoors. Also, get you a turkey fryer. All right, Ian. Be careful with those.
No, they got them. They're fancy now, man. They got it's not just the YouTube videos from 10 years ago. People just lighting up their whole garage. Are you a fried turkey guy?
I don't do that. But when I've tasted it, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
We've not this year, but sometimes we will get with my wife's in-laws, with my wife's family, we'll get these like Cajun turkeys that you can order that are stuffed with like stuffing and with rice and little shrimp.
That sounds delicious.
It's amazing.
It's my in-laws, my wife's
Gumbo turkey.
family that does all the cooking, man. And my wife has been at her mom's house. She was there yesterday for 12 hours. She'll probably be there again for 12 hours. All my in-laws can cook. They make incredible food, but basically my wife makes most of Thanksgiving. So she grinds out like 24 hours of prep and work prior to Thanksgiving. She's incredible. Shout out to my wife. All right, let's talk painfully how Mike Elko built Texas A&M into a contender. And just so we understand what are the features here and how do they go from, a normal year one into 11-0 and looking pretty good. And you start off, has always struck me as a very reasonable head coaching hire. That's when I was upset with A&M, because normally it was the splash. It was all promotion based. It was all, look at this guy. And then they just they try to get Stoops and pull like one of the meanest moves ever, where he's like on a plane, right? And then they fire and then they cancel him. He has to go back to Kentucky like, hey, guys. But then they bring in Elko. That's when I knew something was a little different there, because that was just kind of a solid sound hire. It wasn't all about trying to impress CFB.
Well, I think they got their athletic director was like, I'm going to go hire Mark Stoops. Come on, Mark, everybody, this is Mark. And then they were like, what?
Yeah.
No, we did not fork over $70 million to buy out Jimbo to get Mark Stoops. And then they were like, we have to fire the athletic director. Obviously, this guy's an imbecile. And then when they did that and they had to hire a head coach, it was like, what do we now? We don't even have an athletic director. Let's just recall Elko from the farm team at Duke. He's been doing good there anyway. And so they kind of got back into it. You could watch. I did not like this hire as a Texas fan from the start, because Elko went to Duke, and as soon as he was gone, the discipline and the defensive effectiveness at A&M started to slip off every year. And meanwhile, Duke was like immediately good on defense, immediately physical on offense. They had like Riley Leonard, found that guy, plugged him in, and I was like, this would definitely work at A&M. They could be like they could just kind of get back to their Slocum, who is his predecessor, Jackie Sherrill days, where they are physical every year, good on defense every year, maybe only win 9 or 10 games every year, but Texas has to play them at the end of the SEC schedule when they're all beat up. And then they're like the most physical team on the schedule. That's not fun. And here we are. 2 years later, it's been realized.
And your coach is not enough, right? Who's he bringing with him? Who's the staff? And not even the obvious, like, who's the running back coach? Who's your day-to-day operator behind the scenes, both in strength and conditioning, but also your personnel side? Man, your personnel, your GM nowadays has to be sound, and because they're doing a bulk of the heavy lifting if your head coach lets them.
Yeah, I snuck in a little bit of modern coaching evaluation theory into this article. It used to be whenever somebody would get hired, it'd be like, who's the coordinator is going to be? And then the message board people would all go nuts over, let's bring in some rainmakers.
Yeah.
Let's get some assistant coaches. And the assistant coaches would always be evaluated primarily based on
recruiting.
Which top recruits can they convince to come here? Now I think that's not even a thing.
I'm looking at hard coaching now. Who's developed athletes, who has good technique. I've gone to like the fundamentals on assistant coaches now, because your NIL is doing 85% of the lifting. Yeah.
And then speaking of lifting, the strength coach has always been super important. I think it's maybe more important now because you have these rosters that are constantly shuffling around more than they ever did before. And you need your strength coach to be able to incorporate portal players that haven't been in your culture and in your system. He needs to develop high school players. He needs to impose like a martial order and discipline in your team, but he has to be able to do it in a way that doesn't just chase everybody off in the transfer portal. And then he has to be resistant to stupid new ideas on how to lift and build football players that are extremely prevalent in college football right now, where you don't lift heavy weights and you don't get as big and strong.
It's prevalent across fitness. Everyone's always looking for the new cool way to get the edge when really the basics have always been the basics.
Yeah. It was like strength and conditioning was moved forward in a major way in like the 80s and 90s for football. And that's when players started getting big and different. And everybody always thinks that, like, you know, the microchip keeps getting smaller and smaller. It's like, no, at some point it just doesn't. At some point you get diminishing returns on trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
What if instead of round, it was actually octagonal and maybe it would catch on the ground and go fat? No, just round is good. Stick with the wheel.
So they bring in Tommy Moffitt.
Your cousin.
Sure. And then
your Uncle Tommy.
Yeah, Uncle Tommy. LSU strength coach, who's kind of just like, you know, there's very few strength coaches in college football that are actually known by just the average fan, and he's one of those names. After Brian Kelly fires him. God, Brian Kelly sucks, dude. But then they go and pick him up immediately at A&M.
Kelly had good strength coaches at Notre Dame. So he's probably thinking, like, clean house, I'm going to get my own people. But Nick Saban hired Tommy Moffitt of LSU, and both Les Miles and Ed Orgeron retained him. And anyone that has watched LSU in the aughts in the 2010s, one thing you would definitely say about LSU is they're big, fast, and physical, and they play hard. So it's like,
I think the boxes are checked. You don't need.
Yeah, there's a reason, and he has 3 championship rings at LSU with 3 different head coaches.
Right.
It's very telling.
Yeah. So they handle that part. That's important. And, you know, not only are they like, you know, we say like they set the culture, they are the ones dealing with the players the most.
Yeah,
they're getting them big, but they're the psychological backbone too. I mean, the coach is going to communicate, hey, these are XYZ things, but these are the guys that are really integrating that mindset into the physical realm for these players. So good hire there.
First time I ever learned about this, I had a chance to talk to Manny Diaz one time, years and years ago. And he was like, the strength coach is the most important hire in your program. That's your drill sergeant. That's the guy who's with the kids all year. And he also expounded the need to lift heavy and build strength, and mentioned difficulties that can arise in building a physical football team if your strength coach does not believe in lifting heavy and building strength, which he knew from firsthand experience. Connor, guess how he knew that?
Yeah. So check on getting the guys that will develop athletes physically off the field. Coaches will handle the on-field side. And then we talked about it. Personnel, huge now, especially in the new world of college football, where you need to manage a lot of different moving pieces, and the high school is different than portal and but also that person can help your coach a lot and take a lot of the load off if they're competent and effective. And so your coach can breathe a little easier. And so they get Derek Miller as GM.
Yeah. He's been kind of floating around the game for a while. Started young. I think he pulled him from, I think Elko got him from like Bowling Green or some such place. Toledo, maybe. I don't remember. But Derek Miller's kind of worked his way up. He's been around the game in a lot of different regions, evaluating players. And Duke definitely was doing a good job with personnel. I don't think any of us knew that much about Derek Miller before he went to A&M. But as we're about to get to, the proof is in the pudding. Like, their acquisitions through the portal. Year one, when I saw the guys they were getting in the portal, the kinds of players they were targeting and where they were coming from, I was like, oh no.
Making fun of them, right?
No, I was like, this is gonna work.
You liked them. I thought you would go with a typical fan take of like, well, they have Iowa State, Kansas State. It was more like Bowling Green. They're coming from Bowling Green, but
Conturian is never going to have the normal fan take. Conturian will veer towards a bad take.
Even if the fan take is right, you will be wrong to avoid.
Unless I hear commentators that I think are snobby dissing the fan take, in which case contrarian will race to the defense of the wisdom of the crowds.
Man, just bouncing off the walls.
Everybody's wrong at different times.
Yeah, everyone has blind spots too. Opening a Space Force portal. So this is Ian's concept. We've talked about it on the show a billion times. Give them the elevator pitch for what Space Force even means.
You got 5 positions on the football field where you need elite athleticism and skill and just unique physical traits. Every other position on the field you can develop, you can teach. It's mental. It's about mental toughness. There's like a baseline of athleticism, but you can get by without unique size, speed, whatever. These 5 positions gotta have the kind of stuff that recruitniks value, because they have to play in space a lot against other people that also have to be good in space. So your left tackle has to be able to block edges in the space on the perimeter. If he's bad at his job, the quarterback gets murdered. You can't access the wide side of the field. You get turnovers because the quarterback is pressured or he gets stripped, whatever. Edge, same thing. If he can beat that left tackle consistently one-on-one, you're in a world of hurt. Outside receiver, if he can track that deep ball and bring it down while being contested, those big plays are everything. If you can scheme him up on shot plays as the primary read and he can reliably get open, you're cooking with gas. Cornerback, if he can stop that from happening, he's worth his weight in gold. And then D tackle, I think actually because college football is so trench focused and run game focused, and because special athletes that are 280, 300 pounds and move like elite athletes at that weight are so rare, that the D tackle is actually, I think, the second most impactful position behind outside receiver in terms of their ability to impose their will on a game physically. Quarterback can impose his will mentally, right? D tackles are extremely important. I think that's like the most important piece on defense is D tackle. So I added it in. Obviously, they don't play in space. They play in a broom closet. But, well.
And then A&M goes and grabs these positions at a high level.
Yeah. Trey Zune, they already had him on the roster. Mm-hmm. They actually play him at center some. Have you noticed that? And they'll play Ruben Fothery, who's a blue chip at left tackle. I don't know what they're doing or why they do that, but they Texas A&M can play different offensive line and lineups, and all of them are like 5 times better than any lineup Texas has played this year. So that's great. Casey Concepcion from North Carolina State, blazing fast outside receiver, maybe their best player on offense.
And a skilled wide receiver.
Skilled, catches the ball, it gets open. Perfect for Colin Klein's offense.
Yeah. Then they get Cassius Howell from Bowling Green. We all know about him. He's balling out.
He was good, really good at Bowling Green. Last year he was solid. He didn't quite have the numbers. This year, my goodness, he looks like early round draft pick, right?
Yeah. I
don't know what his specs are, but we have a clip later of him dipping under the poor left tackle from LSU and just burying Nussmeier.
Yep. And then Will Lee, who's always been a fun player. He's not fun to play against. He's actually pretty frustrating because he's a very intense guy. But I remember him at Kansas State. Big corner, but he's very aggressive, both physically and psychologically. He is always talking trash. He has the mental game down. If he's on your team, you really like Will Lee. When you play against him, you're like, well, he held him and shoved him up. It's like he's doing everything he can. It's like a street basketball, like that mentality of how he plays is really intense.
He was good at Kansas State.
Mm-hmm.
Disliked that he shut it down his last year there and then entered the transfer portal when they started losing. Not a fan of quitting, but he's been good at Kansas State. Elko loves the like 6'1" to 6'2" corner that can be physical and play press outside. They also have Des Ricks at cornerback. I chose Will Lee because it kind of demonstrates the point. Des Ricks had a little more obvious origin. He was like a blue chip that went to Alabama. He left Alabama because Nick Saban retired. Texas A&M scooped him up. So that was a little more obvious. But still, they got him. And then D-tackle Tyler Onyedum. Is that how we say that?
Onyedum is how I've always said it.
Onyedum, okay. He was like a D end at Iowa State, but they play 3 downs. Their ends are real big, and they converted him into a 3 technique at A&M, and he's very good. His numbers are pretty good. Obviously, it's hard to evaluate D tackles based on numbers. He gets upfield. He beats guys to spots. He has great length. He's a good player.
And they have Regis, Hicks, so they got more there too.
Hicks was a 5-star.
Right. It doesn't go with our development.
Regis, you're right. That I think they got Regis from he transferred there, didn't he?
I have no idea. I just know
he's yet another portal pickup. He's been there for a while. Never mind. They got a Rodis Johnson from Wisconsin. I don't know if he even really plays very much.
But they brought in guys at crucial spots
that are good. That are very good. Yes. Yeah. This is exactly what it should look like.
Yeah. It's not a coincidence, everyone's like A&M schedule's weak. It's not a coincidence that they're playing well because they have good players at good spots and they're putting together good schemes and they have good off-field personnel and they're doing the right things there. Unfortunately, it seems like they finally figured it out with a coach that gets what it's about. And he's not all and Elko's not a performer, right? They needed a coach that wasn't trying to be a politician as well. Elko's pretty understated guy. So I think his mindset too has been good for the team. It's more, workman-like than arrogance and flash.
Yeah, in my opinion, this is what A&M football should look like.
Yeah.
Where it's like physical, no nonsense.
We're just good old rural Americans.
That's their fan base, right?
That's their whole PR campaign.
When they try to be flashy and big time, it feels like it always goes sideways real fast.
Well, that's why they crack me up because they call Texas, like Hollywood or elitist and whatever you think about that. But when I watched their pregame production when they played against us, I was like, these guys are more Hollywood than we'd ever be. That was an awesome opening, but it was like a concert. Just knowing film, I was like, the amount of work that went into this pregame is astonishing. And it was cool, but they're very funny that they kind of play both sides of the line. They're like, we're just simple folk. And then they turn around and everything is a big performance. And so they have some unique identities going on over there. What do you think? I noticed this, and maybe I'm in a different world because I don't post like hot takes on Twitter. Generally, I'm kind of posting stats of what I see. A&M has been less annoying this year. What do you think, though? Because I'm kind of in a different world. It seems like them getting validated, and I think we talked about this, them winning takes away the need for them to be inherently irrational year after year because they never had anything to stand on. This year, it doesn't seem like they've been as crazy. Or maybe I'm in a different part of Twitter than you. You do post hot takes.
I'm always going back and forth with the OU people.
Yeah, that's your bread and butter.
So I don't see the worst of the Aggies as much. I don't know. I don't feel confident saying
it's still, you'll get the basic fan stuff, but generally they've been more reasonable because reality has allowed them to be. Like they can be reasonable because they can point at we're good at XYZ and it's true. So it's been a little bit of a different mindset for them than I've seen this year. So we got to see, but I just noticed that when I was on Twitter, it was a little different for me.
I've always had this suspicion. I've explained that I have this this thought that if Texas A&M ever actually wins the championship, that whole fan base may like lighten up in a major way, kind of like Red Sox after winning in 04. So
reality will finally agree with their thought of themselves, so they won't sound insane like they have for
they're always trying to insist on their excellence and superiority relative to Texas, and the more that it's like not quite connected to reality, seems like the more unhinged some of them get.
Yeah,
but maybe we'll find out. I kind of doubt it, but I do think they're set up to at least go on a pretty good run here in the playoffs, which they are now locked in 100%, right? There's like no way they miss the playoffs.
Oh yeah, there's no way they miss the playoffs. I think they can miss the SEC championship though.
Yeah.
If they lose and Bama wins or something like that, they could miss the SEC championship. But all right, it's a dark world, dark timeline.
Hey, the conference championship, by the way, maybe we'll talk about this next week. Conference championships are really not great anymore now that the conferences are overloaded with teams.
Especially if you lose.
No, I mean, like, they don't gauge the champion of the conference very well. We'll talk about it next week. We got more than enough to talk about.
I was going to say, we're going to, if we lose this game, we're going to be off for a while. So let's save some of that.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, if we lose this game, all the topics next week are just going to immediately be
off season.
Who's getting fired?
Yeah.
Who are we hiring? Which portal players or do we poach?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. I'm sorry.
Another thing they were able to do is develop the signal callers. And guys, if you guys are wondering, signal callers is what all writers use when they're tired of saying quarterback. So it's just they switch to signal callers. It's very common, I've seen. Ian,
I do that.
Of course not, Ian.
I do that, but I have found other value in the term beyond the obvious value of not writing the word quarterback twice in one sentence or 3 times in 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. The development of signal callers. You had our boy Wigman. And he was supposed to be the savior. He was going to do everything, and then doesn't work out. You get Marcel Reed, who struggled last year. But this year they've given Marcel incredibly sunny conditions, just lack of sacks. Here's 3 receivers that are all top 10 in yards after catch per reception. Here's capable running backs, even though Moss goes down. Here's an offensive line that's doing their job. I mean, props to Klein, props to player development, because Marcel Reed in Texas's offense early in the year would have died like most quarterbacks would have. But Colin Klein has built an awesome offense and allowed Marcel Reed's strength to shine generally.
Yeah. We joked a lot at Reed's expense. I watched A&M spring game, and I was like, okay, they got these receivers. They brought all the linemen back. This could be a really nasty team. Oh, Reed doesn't seem like he even knows where the ball goes in the playbook. And so I didn't write them off, but I did make a lot of jokes about how somebody should make sure that there's a copy of the playbook on his private jet that he has access to.
Yeah.
By the way, at the Texan Live event, I didn't quite have an introduction, but I sort of saw the guy that provides him with the private jet up in the VIP lounge at Texan Live when we did our event.
Did you see like a guy that gives private jets to people?
Yeah.
The vibes were private jets.
A lot of I can hook up football players with private jets vibes.
Somehow that's a very rare, unique person, but you can still envision it. All right. So they have success there. That's the point. Colin Klein's put them in success. It's all crossing routes. It's all very simple offense where they're just leveraging their athlete advantage consistently.
Yeah. You know what? Watching the offense, I watched the Aggies and I'm like, this is what I think it would look like if Sark was still Sark, but he was more committed to inside zone, power, and spread sets. They motion all the time. They create one read shot plays. They do play with 2 tight ends sometimes. They have they have like 3 good tight ends on the roster that can all block. It kind of looks like what I thought and hoped the offense at Texas would look like this year, honestly. It's just very frustrating to say.
Yeah.
But Reed, go ahead.
I'll say Paul's frustrated. He's like, how does A&M have more speed than us? That's what's driving him nuts.
They have, maybe even more speed than you even really need.
Yeah.
I think short yardage without Le'Veon Moss is a bit of a question mark for them.
Mm-hmm.
But
so is red zone.
Yeah. But they can score from outside the red zone way too easily because when they have Owens, Craver, Concepcion, and Reed on the field, all 4 of those guys look like 4-4 guys.
Yeah. And Texas fans are very familiar with Owens. We were in it for him. He committed, decommitted. That was a wild cycle. Before we keep going, though, guys, we are going to talk A&M offense. Let's hear a word from David McClellan.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
All righty. One of the questions we got, how do y'all see trying to attack the A&M offense?
How do we see?
How would you attack A&M on offense?
Well, you got to do your misdirection spread passing that they've been doing the last few weeks. So you can get them going the wrong way, get their eyes in the wrong spots, and get guys open that way.
No. How do you attack A&M's offense? How does our defense attack A&M's offense?
How did I miss that? Okay. We got bigger problems beyond attacking.
I'm not worried about the attack. I'm worried about soundness of structure and not giving crossers 30 yards in the middle of the field and not missing up gap. Like, I'm just worried about playing sound defense that I'm not embarrassed of when I watch the All-22.
This is the section of the article I'm on, and I can tell you why. I can tell you what things we need to be worried about. Because there's the zone option game. And if you mess up your zone option gaps against A&M, it's Reed or it's Owens going 80 on you. Mm-hmm. So that's not great. Like, if you have trouble with like physicality at the point of attack or something like that, you can get beat down by the run game some. But at least when your problem is soundness and you misfit things, and then you're playing a team with speed like this, it can really get bad on you, you know?
The perimeter has been bad all year. We've seen almost every team have success, whether it's just a running back pressing the hole and then bouncing outside or some type of quarterback run variation. And as well as our linebackers have really regressed this year. Looking at like Ohio State to now, they played with a ton of confidence and fit well. Now they're tentative and they're getting stuck behind the defensive tackles and like not making the level of plays. We have a defensive film study coming out here later today with Jet and Drew that you'll see examples of the linebackers not playing linebacker. And so that's a big factor too. So, and in any motion occurring in the core just like breaks our run fits. And then, it's like, well, he'll get free to the second level with like Taff. And unfortunately, if you watch Arkansas, they're running to Taff's side. And I was like, I noticed in a couple plays, and then I asked them, I'm like, are they targeting Taff in the run game? They're like, yeah. And so Taff's getting targeted in the run game, and he's been the past couple games missing tackles. I don't care. He got trucked, whatever, man. Like that, you're going to get trucked eventually. He was there to make the tackle. The player was bigger. Okay. But I'm seeing actual missed tackles from Taff as well. So it's like I don't even trust the safeties to clean up if we misfit right now either. And that's worrying me.
At the beginning of the year, they were playing Taff behind Littleton at nickel in the middle and McDonald in the short side of the field in the boundary. And then you like couldn't really get Taff in space. And he was always in position over the top to clean up and hang back and direct. And then they stopped doing that at some point in the year. And I have no idea why. This game, you got to play McDonald in the boundary and keep Taff in the middle. McDonald's not even good at middle safety, Connor. Like we've had like 2 weeks in a row where we're like, what are his eyes doing? Why is he not seeing this release? Yeah. So they have to be sound against the run game in a way they haven't been for a few weeks. And then they also need to be sound in the pass game and on switch releases in a way that they haven't been in recent weeks. And it's the same thing. It's like it was bad enough when the other team was running switch releases and getting tight ends open in the middle or in the seams. That's not great. That'll hurt you. When it's Mario Craver or Kevin Concepcion or Austin Bethel Roman, who's also insanely fast and dangerous, it's going to be 80-yard touchdowns. There's like so many things that we're doing poorly that A&M can punish with 80-yard touchdowns. And that's like, I could see this game going in fits and spurts where it's like, yeah, this is going okay. And then they just score 3-play drive, 5-play drive, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no. And then it gets cleaned up again for a minute, and you're like, okay, we're hanging in there. And then you botch a switch release and it's a 70-yard,
Yeah, I'm not in the mindset of attacking. Like when you have a good defense, you're like, all right, let's game plan them up. What are our wrinkles? Like, how are we really going to get them off their spot? But we're not sound at basics right now, run and pass. And so I just want us to not bust plays and make obvious mistakes or leave the middle of the field wide ass open. That's where I'm at.
And you can't attack when you're doing that. If you attack when you're doing that, you're going to be boom or bust.
Yep.
And you'll just experience the cycle I just described. It does not add up to winning on the scoreboard. If you're like, well, we had 4 tackles for loss and we shut them down on 4 drives. Well, if the other 4 drives are all quick touchdown play drives, that's not adding up. So
you don't want arch chasing.
What's going on down there?
We're already going to likely be in 3rd and longs. A&M has really good early down success rates, and then they put people in 3rds and longs, and then we see what Elko does. Texas has a huge advantage in pass explosivity. It's our only offensive advantage, actually, numbers-wise. And so, if A&M's able to quick score, get out to the lead, now we're going to be in 3rd down, even more obvious, chasing. It's just defense has just got to be sound, man. Don't let them get those 80-yarders. And that was the whole point of PK's defense. That's was kind of what it was, is like, look, it wasn't very sexy or fun, but teams didn't score a lot, and they got frustrated in the red zone. Texas defense now is like 78th in the red zone.
So Connor, how would you shore this up?
Well, so there's 2 minds, and I talked about it with Paul, but my first thought is like, well, do you play man?
Mm-hmm. That was my first thought. And also in our group chat, somebody was just saying that. Who was just saying that in the group chat?
Lando.
Yeah, Lando was like, so do we just play man this week and make sure we don't
Bust.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, like their passing game are crossers.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, if you play man, and they already do it. They're going to run a million crossers. Every single one of their guys are faster than anyone we would man them up with. Crossers beat zone too.
Yep.
So it's like, well, do you forsake the single high that we've been using all year and at least go too high and try to see what works there? Well, I'm saying we're working through like trying to figure out what the answer is. Yep. Do you go too high to try to keep the top on it? Right. And so it's like, well, then at that point, so it's what do you do? And it's
I'll tell you why you don't go too high real quick. Because we don't do it very much anymore. And I just feel like we'd bust it a million ways.
Yeah. Which is a shame because you need the ability to play too high sometimes. And so that's
we warned about this, Connor.
I don't have a that's what I'm saying. I don't have a solve for the A&M offense. There's not like, so it's like, do you play man inside leverage and try to stop the crossers? You know, what do you do? Or do you just say like Colin Simmons, God bless you. We need you, brother. Get Marcel Reed moving around or just, is it a position battle? Is it just pure like pre-snap chess where we're positioning players in windows into which we think they'll attack, right? So are you just sitting guys in the crosser windows just to give you an advantage there?
Well, maybe. When you said pre-snap chess battles, I was like, no chess battles. We need to play
I just mean like alignment. Yeah.
We need to play checkers. I think we need to get to just conservative cover 3 zone. You can mix it up a little bit just to keep them sort of guessing. But like so many of these switches, the corner is not bailing deep because I don't know what they're doing, man. I don't even know what they're doing, but they need to stop that and just tell the corners like, hey, just bail at the snap and you get the deepest declared receiver. So make sure you're in position to get the deepest declared receiver. And then let Taff or McDonald get the guy underneath, or better, have Taff in the post. I think you go country cover 3. Maybe not country, but you go cover 3. You try to take away the first read with zone eyes, right? And then you hope that, A, you don't get destroyed with big plays because you have guys back. B, you get a chance to win the game in the red zone on defense. And 3, maybe you get some turnovers because you just give your defensive front a chance to win the game for you because you're not letting guys just run wide open.
We'll see.
I think that's pretty much it.
But that's what I was going to say. But that's where it's like, I don't have any confidence in the defense. Like, and so it's like, because this is basic stuff that you should have done versus basically everyone. And you haven't been able to do it. And we don't have the athlete advantage really anywhere in the secondary when it comes to actual speed.
I think they were getting antsy from like one thing that Eric wrote on an Insider, one of his humidors recently, was that he was like, the defensive staff is aware that they get a little predictable with the third down cover with the cover 3 defense. And I was like, you're worried about being predictable in cover 3? So yeah, it doesn't seem like the major concern to me. And since then it's gotten worse. So I kind of feel like it seems like they made great the enemy of good. And they're like, oh, we're getting targeted. We need to mix in more whatever it is that they're trying to do. I don't know what they're trying to do. Let's mix in a few more things. And instead they're, or maybe they like changed up some of their checks or something.
Well, and some of it's like, okay, to this point, do you attack?
It doesn't feel like they talk anymore either.
I know. When you're watching the All-22, Texas last year, man, was like over-communicating. You're constantly seeing hand signals, guys running over to guys, that kind of stuff. Now the only time the secondary talks is after they bust the play to get mad at whoever busted it. It's like, well, guess what? You wouldn't have busts if you talked ahead of the play. But they don't talk ahead of the play.
I've heard PK talk about his match 3, and Coach Voss was trying to get him to break down like, okay, when they're in this look, do you want to play zone to that side or do you want to play man? guess like when they do this specific thing, and PK was like, I could do either. Basically, just as long as everybody knows to do the same thing, just do that. That's like PK in a nutshell. It's like, is this more optimal or is this more optimal? They both have their pros and cons. Just make sure everybody does the same thing, and we'll.
But that has been his thing. Like, as long as everyone's
They don't do it anymore.
I know, but I was saying, like, that was the good part. Is like, look, it wasn't sexy, but it was sound and it worked, and the players knew their job and they understood it. Now the players clearly don't understand their jobs and they're getting murked, and so that's why it's been so disheartening, because it's just like not how a PK defense has looked. And we think that, the factor of the secondary coach plays a big role here, but
they got to fire that guy
for sure.
They got
but yeah, but it's like, it's that where it's become a lot more worrisome. But my thought is like, okay, well, say you do attack, to Utah Horn's point. Do you fire linebackers? Because Anthony Hill can blitz, Moore can blitz. We're good there. But all you're doing at that point is vacating the middle of the field where they're going to run a crosser into. So you send Anthony Hill, well, here comes Concepcion or whoever it is. One of the characters are just going to come fill that spot. So it's also that, like, you can get punished if you do try to go over aggressive. But also, we haven't played over aggressive and we're still getting punished. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's going to have to be an inspired – for Texas to win, Texas just has to elevate. And that's against all the Navy SEAL jargon, right? You fall back on your training, But the real answer is Texas is going to have to play incredibly inspired and not play like they've played the past half of the season.
Yes.
Who you got running around? Izzy?
No, that's my oldest. He bear crawled out so that no one would see him in his Christmas pajamas for the Christmas photo he's going to go get taken.
What do you mean, Dad?
All right. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, man?
Eric Morris to Oklahoma State. Arkansas hires Alex Golesh, who I learned yesterday was born in Moscow and moved to this country in 1991. Kind of interesting.
Fun fact for everyone.
Viren shoot guy. Also, fun fact about Golesh: he hired Todd Orlando as his defensive coordinator. If he takes him with him to Arkansas, I do not foresee great things for Arkansas. I get the sense that Arkansas missed on all their top targets. I think they wanted Morris, and Morris was like, I got a better chance at getting a better job than Arkansas catapulting from Oklahoma State than I do going to Arkansas, where I'm just going to get my head kicked in the SEC.
I was going to say, playing in the Big 12 too, right? With your style of offense, it's like it works.
What he's famous for now is he took Drew Mestamaker, who was a backup for 2 years at Vanderbilt for two different Division I athletes. Not at Vanderbilt, I'm sorry, at Vandegrift, the Northwest emergent power here in Central Texas. And he took this kid that hadn't even played starting quarterback in high school and has turned him into, some people think, the most skilled passer in the entire country. And he still got at least one more year of eligibility before he would go to the NFL. So just take him with you to Oklahoma State, right? You get kids like that, you can win at Oklahoma State like that. You try to win in Arkansas with overlooked 3-star Texas kids running the spread. That's tough. It's like other teams do that well too. And the SEC, Oklahoma is going to be doing that. Ole Miss is going to be doing that. Mississippi State's going to be doing that. So my guess is that Eric Morris was like, I'm just going to go to Oklahoma State. That's a better gig for me in the long run. And then there were rumors about Matt Campbell, which would have been a home run hire for them. But it's like, if you're Matt Campbell, I don't know why you do that either.
Is he ever going to leave?
I've always thought he would go, but from the beginning, it was like he wants the Big Ten, awesome Midwest job. And whenever one of those has been open, he's never been quite the guy, right?
Final question before we get out of here. Is this Aggie team better than Ohio State or Georgia?
That's a great final question. Are they better than – I mean, like, we're kind of going to find out Friday, I think. That's been like the thing with Aggie this year is that they're good, but are they that good? We're not totally sure. And What do you think, Connor?
You gotta answer this first.
Oh,
You always give me the brutal questions first. To me, mentally, I'll answer it, and some of this is cop out because these are more legacy programs. I view the Ohio State Georgia tier differently. It's like tier 1, and then like A&M is right there, and kind of tier 2, kind of what Texas was, where it's like you're not there. You're close, maybe with a chance to try to jump up into it, but you're at the tranche right below, respectably.
I think that A&M might be as good or better than Georgia, and they're just very different. Because Georgia's deal is they will just clobber you on first and second down for steady. They'll just steadily clobber you over the course of the game. And A&M's deal is like the opposite. First and second down, they're solid. May or may not clobber you, may get clobbered themselves. But big plays on offense, they're just going to knock you out with one play with their speed. And then defense, they will knock you out on third down.
I wanted the Georgia A&M SEC championship.
Is that
if they
impossible?
made it. Well, if Alabama wins, they have the head-to-head versus Georgia, right? So if
Yeah.
they're all 1 losses, so yeah.
And I think they have a tiebreaker because Vanderbilt beat Kentucky and Alabama beat Vanderbilt. So some Alabama fan on my Substack, americaswargame.substack.com, was telling me that was like a big boost in their tiebreaker scenarios.
But I want to see that matchup because we really understand Georgia as Texas fans, and we know what makes them good, and it's a different thing. It's a different thing than what makes A&M good. So
Yeah.
it's like I want to see that. I want to see what that looks like. Not that like, well, we got beat by this much and A&M got beat, therefore we're better. No, I just want to see those play styles because Georgia is somehow both a champion and a gatekeeper. And so I want to see, like, can you pass the Georgia test? Because that's what prevents you clearly from getting to that next kind of level of recognition.
They are going to play in Austin Friday night, though. So I'm going with my son, who was just sneaking by. If you see me at DKR, come by and say hello.
Good stuff. Also, come by InsideTexas.com. $1 for your first week. We'd love to see you over there. It's going to be a lot of fun. That pre-game, during game, post-game thread as well. We'd love to see you. Everyone, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We got some more good content coming out for you today, and there will be content tomorrow as well. So whenever you're done with your turkey nap, make sure to check it out because we are not taking the day off for you guys. And this was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors as part of Rivalry Week Takeover. Happy Thanksgiving. Bye, y'all.